Hello Dogs fans, welcome to another episode of After the Dogs Roar for season 2016. Now this episode is for after round 10 and I'm fresh back from Melbourne after seeing the boys live for the second time this season, and well, I really enjoyed the game. You know, a win's a win. It was a good win. A win's a win. We can't forget that, although there were some talking points coming out of the game against Collingwood at the MCG on Sunday. So I'll be talking about them. I'll be giving you my opinion on the game, things that we should work on, things that we did well. I'll be just giving you an overview of the game against Collingwood in this episode. Now, also coming up on this episode, I'll be giving you my votes for the After the Dogs Roar Best and Fairest Award. These votes from the round 10 clash against Collingwood, of course. Also coming up in this episode, I'm going to be doing a stats wrap-up, all the leading goal kickers, disposals, marks and tackles after round 10. Now, also coming up is the Bevis burning question. I get to ask a question, give my opinion, as well as asking the opinion of others in the Western Bulldogs forum and beyond. So looking forward to giving you my burning question coming out of the game against Collingwood. Also coming up on this episode, I'm going to be looking towards the game against West Coast at Etihad on Sunday. That is our round 11 clash. Looking forward to that. And to finish off the show, I'm going to be doing the fan favourite segment called the 5 Fan Questions. The best 5 questions asked by you, the fans, in the Western Bulldogs forum. So looking forward to that segment, because there were some very interesting and good questions asked in the Western Bulldogs forum following the game on Sunday. So let's get straight in to the show, starting with an overview of the game against Collingwood. So of course, on Sunday, our boys travelled to the MCG for the second time in season 2016, and actually the last time in the 2016 home and away season until the finals at least. And, well, it was an interesting game against Collingwood, because we know they've been performing quite good in the last couple of games against the Lions and Geelong. So it wasn't going to be a tough task, but it wasn't going to be easy, that's for sure. Now, we started off well. Dixon got the first goal in the first quarter within a minute of play, but Collingwood were able to strike back and get the next couple of goals. There were 6 goals kicked in the first quarter, and the quarter time score ended up being Collingwood 3-1 to the Western Bulldogs 3-0. So Collingwood in front by a point at quarter time. It was a pretty even quarter, actually. There weren't really any team really dominating the quarter. It was really kind of even, and it was just a great quarter. So a great opening quarter to what was going to be a great game. Now, in the second quarter, there was only 2 goals kicked, 1 between each side. And Collingwood actually had more shots in this second quarter, and really they had a chance to, I guess, power on and get a good lead before half-time, but they didn't take their opportunities. Now, from a Western Bulldogs point of view, we were just turning over the ball left, right and centre, weren't really looking at where we were kicking it, we weren't really finding targets, and Stringer, really disappointing from him in the second quarter, and well, probably throughout the game as well, really disappointing from him, because he was leading in the forward 50 behind a player, when really he should have been coming out forward and basically getting a ball onto his chest or out in front instead of leading behind a man. It was just ridiculous. So at half time, we were still there in the game, of course. It was only by a few points. Collingwood were in the lead 4-7 to 4-2 in what was a low scoring second quarter, really. And then the third quarter, well, we got ourselves in the game. Of course, we were in the game the whole way through, by the way. It was only like a few points lead that it ended up being at various stages of the match. This was another close quarter, though, in the third quarter. Ended up being 6-8 to 6-5, Collingwood leading by only 3 points at three-quarter time. And then in the end, Collingwood actually had no interchange in the fourth quarter, which was quite unbelievable. There's not really many games you see a team without an interchange in the last quarter. It was quite stunning, but we were able to power on in the fourth quarter and basically power through Collingwood and run over the top of them. Suckling really kicked the winning goal, where he kicked that goal outside 50, and what was a remarkable goal by him, and really proved what we've actually missed in the last couple of weeks when he's been out with injury. But we won the game, and it was quite a good win in the end. Collingwood 7-11-53, defeated by the Western Bulldogs 11-8-74. The goal kickers for the Western Bulldogs, Dunkley kicked 2 in what was probably one of his best games he's ever played for the Western Bulldogs. Sensational performance by him. Dixon and Redpath got 2 each. You then had Campbell, Dalehouse, Bontempelli, Wood and Suckling getting singles each for the Western Bulldogs. So the best players, Wood got best on ground for the Western Bulldogs. Dalehouse, Liberatore, McRae, Hunter and Suckling all getting in the best players. Dunkley probably very unlucky to miss out in terms of getting in the best players, because I thought he really had a good game. But anyway, just put the interchange to the side a little bit, because I thought we ran over the top of Collingwood very well in the last quarter, and I guess if you come back and able to win, and you come from behind and you're able to win in the last quarter, then that's really what makes a good team. But we did in terms dodge a bullet a little bit, and there were some big talking points coming out of the game. I think, the disappointing thing was that we lost the turnovers dramatically in this game, and, Collingwood won the turnovers 73-81. We had 81 turnovers in the game, which is just not acceptable, to be quite honest with you. Some of the turnovers were ridiculous and could have easily been avoided. Some kicks that we were kicking, we weren't even looking at a target, we were just kicking it anywhere, or just kicking it to some Collingwood bloke. It wasn't good enough in terms of the turnovers. So what the club really needs to do next week is look at where they're kicking the ball and try and hit a target. Try and hit a target 99% of the time. I know sometimes some players, they're under pressure, and these days I know you have to get rid of the ball pretty quickly, or otherwise you're going to get pinged. So I know some players just kick it to get rid of it so they don't get pinged for holding the ball, but seriously, you need to try and hit a target when you can. Stringer, I was a bit disappointed in his performance. I thought some of his leading was quite disappointing, and I thought he was back to where he kind of was against North Melbourne, where he was leading from behind and not really coming out and leading like a proper forward. So that was a bit disappointing. He also really should have kicked one goal. We know he had that time where he should have taken a couple of bounces and then kicked it through the goals, but instead he kicked it behind, so that was a bit disappointing. But that's okay. He'll of course improve, get back to the training track. He'll know where he is, and hopefully improve for West Coast next week. So a good win. Of course, some talking points. Our turnovers weren't very good. Collingwood had more inside 50s also, and there was also times in the match where we didn't really have any forward structure, where we were getting it inside 50 but not really getting a goal, which was kind of the same story last week, kind of again this week, but then again we were able to get the win, and won our 7th game of the season, so that's quite good. Even though there was some talking points, it was a very good win. Okay, Dogs fans, time now for my votes for the After the Dogs Raw Best and Fairest Award for 2016. These votes coming out of the Round 10 match v Collingwood on Sunday, of course. And I was thinking the other day, I'd actually like to be at the Charlie Sutton Medal at the end of the year, awarding a cheap trophy or something like that to the player who actually wins this award. That would be quite outstanding. Not sure if that will happen though, but anyway. My votes for this week, there was probably about 5 players who probably deserved at least one vote coming out of this game. There were quite a few who really had a big influence on the game, especially in the fourth quarter, but also throughout the game as well. But I think these 3 actually had a big influence throughout the whole game, which is what gets you votes, as well as being fair, of course. So here's how the votes have panned out from my point of view. I've given 1 vote to Jack McRae. He gets his first vote for season 2016 in terms of this award. He had a good game, I thought. He got some good disposals, and he was getting the ball a fair bit, and I was thinking every time he got the ball, I was thinking, wow, there's Jack McRae again, got the ball again. It was quite good to see. So he definitely deserves 1 vote. 2 votes went to Luke Dalehouse. He had a good game, highest disposals of the game for the Western Bulldogs. very happy with how he's tracking along in the last couple of weeks. He's been sensational this year, and he's up there at probably the best top 3 or 4 for this year. He's quite good, and plus he's one of my favourite players, and he had a good game on the weekend. So 2 votes Luke Dalehouse, and then 3 votes I had to give it to the standout player of the match, really, and also the stand-in captain for season 2016, Easton Wood. He got the 3 votes. Actually, unbelievably, his first lot of votes for season 2016, which is stunning. I don't know why I haven't given him a vote yet. Of course, maybe there's been some players who have been in better form in games than him, but he's certainly a bloke who was so good on the weekend, taking those grabs and then kicking that goal in the last quarter, I think it was, where he kicked that stunning goal outside 50 or just inside 50. He kicked the goal, and he's just a great player to watch. Really loving him this year. I loved him last year, but really loving him this year. And, yeah, he got the 3 votes, deservedly got the 3 votes. Of course, gotten the best players for the Western Bulldogs this week, of course. So, good stuff, Easton Wood. He gets the 3 votes in this week's votes for the After the Dogs Roar Best and Fairest Award. Okay, so looking at the leaderboard, and you can see there that Lachie Hunter still leads the After the Dogs Roar Best and Fairest Award on 8 votes. Didn't poll a vote in this game against Collingwood, but still leads by 1 vote. Luke Dalehouse, who got the 2 votes, he has risen up to 2nd on 7 votes. Stringer Bontempelli level on 6 votes. You then have Johannesson, who has been out injured. He's there on 5 votes. Biggs on 4 votes. Easton Wood, Stevens, Picken, also Boyd there on 3 votes, as well as Suckling and Liberatore. You then have Wallace on 2 votes, and then finally McRae, Daniels and Adams level on 1 vote. So that is the leaderboard for the After the Dogs Roar Best and Fairest Award after round 10. Okay, now time for the stats wrap up after round 10. Who's leading what at the club in terms of the goal kickers, disposals, marks and tackles? I'll start with the leading goal kickers as I normally do. Jake Stringer still leads, even though he was kept goalless on the weekend. He still leads on 21 goals. Dixon is 10 goals behind him on 12 goals. Sorry, 9 goals behind him, I should say. I should learn to count, shouldn't I? Third is Bontempelli on 11, level with McLean. And then you have Jack Redpath on 8 goals, rounding out the top 5 on 5th. We then have the leading disposals. No surprise that Lachie Hunter is still in front on 310 disposals. McRae behind him on 278 disposals. Luke Dalehouse not far behind McRae on 3rd on 272. You then have Boyd on 243 disposals. Mitch Wallace rounds out the top 5 on 5th on 242 disposals. The leading marks, Matthew Boyd, no surprise that he leads the marks on 70. You then have Lachie Hunter on 63 in 2nd. Adams on 53 in 3rd. Dale Morris on 4th with 52 marks. This is surprising, actually. Easton Wood on 49 marks, 5th. I thought he would have just been a little bit higher, but oh well, I guess it's I guess the stats don't lie, that's for sure. And then the leading tackles to finish off the stats wrap up. We have Luke Dalehouse first on 61 tackles. Tom Liberatore second on 56 tackles. McRae on 43. You then have 4th, John Roughead on 40. And then we have Liam Picken 5th on 38 tackles. Okay, time to have a look at the AFL ladder now, where we stand, and we currently sit 6th place. Of course, we've dropped from 5th to 6th after that win to Collingwood, although the West Coast Eagles actually won their game against the Gold Coast Suns, as you would expect, by about 70 odd points. So their percentage is a bit better than ours, so they have risen to 5th place. And we've got a big game against the West Coast Eagles on Sunday. It's going to be a massive one. Can we move back up the ladder to where we were earlier in the year? Well, we'll have to wait and see on Sunday. Okay, time now for one of my favourite segments in the show called the Bevis Burning Question. This is where I get to ask everyone a question, give my opinion, and hope that all of you will give your opinion as well. This week's question coming out of the game against Collingwood is, did Josh Dunkley take a massive leap in his AFL career on Sunday? I thought he was outstanding and probably unlucky to miss out on a vote this week. I thought, though, he played one of his best games he's ever played for the Western Bulldogs on Sunday. He was absolutely fantastic. He kicked 2 goals, one from a very difficult angle, I must say, And, well, he had about 18 disposals, which is not too much, but he had some very good efficient disposals, which was fantastic to see. He had 14 kicks, which was good. 10 marks. 10 marks from the young fella. That's quite good. And he also had 4 handballs, and he got about 115 fantasy points if you do AFL fantasy. He was quite good on the weekend. I thought he really did take a leap in his AFL career because he probably played one of the best games he's played for the club. Now, this is a bloke who's only played 3 games this season, had an injury-interrupted season last year, so he hasn't played too many games of football for the Dogs, but I tell you what, this one was by far his best game he has played for the club. So let me know your thoughts on Josh Dunkley. He's definitely cemented a spot in the team for next week. I was pretty impressed with what I saw. Okay, time now to quickly get into the game against West Coast on Sunday, the 5th of June, starting at 3:20 p.m. at Etihad Stadium. This is our round 11 clash. This will be a pretty big game, I'd say, and in my opinion, this is probably a bigger game for the West Coast Eagles than it is for us. Like, I think we've proved that we can beat West Coast at our home ground at Etihad Stadium in the last couple of years. I think we can beat them. I think we've certainly got the team to do so. It's basically our home ground, so we're going to have a really good home ground advantage back at Etihad Stadium. And West Coast, they're not really a very good travelling side. They only really proved that they could win away from home a couple of weeks ago when they played Port Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. But putting that all aside, they are still going to be tough. Josh Kennedy, he's a bloke who we really need to stop in this game. He's been quite lethal in the games that we've played against West Coast over the last couple of years, kicking a fair few bags of goals. So we really need to stop him. I'd say Marcus Adams would probably take the one-on-one matchup between him and possibly play on him. I'd be surprised if Fletcher Roberts stayed in the side and played on him if he did stay in the side. Possibly Matthew Suckling could play on him as well, but I think Matthew Suckling, we'd probably prefer him to be on the wing at various stages of the game. So yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. This game, of course, live on free-to-air and also on Fox Sports 3 if you have Foxtel. Really looking forward to this game, and yeah, I think we can win. I think we can win this game. I'd say that our defence really needs to be quite good against West Coast, because I know they're going to have some pretty big, tall players up in their forward line. And we also need to just fix up our forward structure for this game as well. Stringer needs to fix his leading up so he gets he gets a bit more of the ball, more than what he did against Sunday against Collingwood. Should be a good game. I think we'll win this one. Okay, time now to finish off this episode of After the Dogs Roar with the fan favourite segment, the 5 fan questions. The best questions asked in the Western Bulldogs forum. And I start with the first question by Red WB, who has been giving some fantastic feedback on the show lately, which I'm really appreciative of. Red WB asks, will we get to 40k membership? I don't see why not. We have got people coming left, right and centre, joining the club. We are just an exciting football club at the moment. Everyone's excited. You know, everyone I was talking to, or people I was going past, or when I was in an elevator with in the hotel on Sunday, even at the airport, the Hobart Airport, noticed my jacket and were commenting on the Western Bulldogs. And I actually had my mother next to me. They weren't saying anything to my mum, and she was wearing a Collingwood jacket. So, you know, we're a very exciting club. Everyone is excited about the Western Bulldogs. There's no doubt about that, of course. We haven't won a grand final for so long. So people are jumping on the bandwagon, which is very good to see. And I believe, yes, we can get to 40Ks. No doubt about it. We are a very exciting football club. Next question comes from the Melton Bogan. Now, this bloke has been getting a bit feisty with me lately because I haven't been answering his questions, but I'm answering this one. Who is the keeper of the finest mullet ever in Bulldog history? Well, a very interesting and different question by you, Melton, which is very interesting and very good to see. And I've had to go Daniel Southern. I think he had the best mullet, in my opinion. He probably is the finest mullet I've seen, and is probably the keeper of the finest mullet, in my opinion. Of course, the Western Australian recruit that debuted back in 1994, so about 20 odd years ago now. He debuted, and yeah, fine player. Had a very good mullet, and I would say that Daniel Southern is the keeper of the finest mullet. Foots Crazy asks, my question is, does Morris have another year left in him? Well, from what I saw on Sunday, I say he does. Actually, to be quite honest with you, I'm going to go a bit beyond 1 year and say that he might have 2 years left in him. I think he does. I think people might be a bit surprised what I just said, but I actually think he has at least 2 years left in him. He's actually going quite well, and he's actually the veteran at our club at the moment. He's a fantastic player. Of course, we know that he got injured a few years ago and it ruined his year, but he's really going well in that defence, playing some great football, having a good influence on the game and at our club. I think he's definitely got at least 1 year, if not 2. It would be fantastic to see if he could go on for at least extra 2 more years and then call it a quits, and then hopefully by that time we have a premiership. Matty Lyons asked, if we beat both West Coast and Geelong in coming weeks, will the lid come off? They're going to be tough 2 games, I must say, especially Geelong. We know that they haven't been too good in the last couple of weeks, but they are still going to come out firing in that game. That's a Saturday night game coming up in the next few weeks. Port Adelaide, I'd say, is also a test as well at Adelaide Oval. We haven't beaten them. We didn't beat them last year at the Adelaide Oval, so you can't forget Port Adelaide. But yeah, I think West Coast and Geelong is probably the must-win games to especially prove that we're actually a dominant force and that we can go ahead and push quite far in the finals. So, look, I will say that, I'd say I'd probably judge if the lid will come off or not after round 20, because, you know, we've got some tough games even coming up against West Coast and Geelong, after West Coast and Geelong, I should say. So I think, I won't say the lid will come off just yet. I think we'll just wait. West Coast and Geelong, though, would be brilliant wins. Of course, don't forget we've got Geelong twice this year. We've also got Richmond coming up, which we should be able to win that one. I'd like to think we could win that. Of course, the Sydney Swans is going to be tough at the SCG. Can we do it again this season? That will be interesting. So just hold the fort just for a minute. See how the next couple of weeks or the next few weeks pan out. See what we can do and how many wins we can get by round 20 to actually make a judgment. Final question comes from Bianca. Would like to hear your thoughts on how you think our defence will go against the Eagles Tools next round. I thought they were fantastic today against the Pies forwards. Yeah, they were okay. I thought they were good. It was good to have Adams back in the side. It was also good to have Suckling back in the side as well. Dale Morris up there was quite good. Fletcher Roberts obviously still needs to develop as a player, but he's going okay. Obviously, there were some small concerns coming out of the game against Collingwood, in my opinion, that I didn't really talk about in the overview. I thought we had players by themselves at various points of the game, which is something I don't like. I think we need to play more one-on-one when we play the West Coast Eagles on Sunday, especially with the likes of Kennedy, Darling, etc. I think we need to play a bit more one-on-one, try and have those players in our eyesight throughout the whole game. 100% of the time it would be preferred. So I think we will do well. I think with Adams on Kennedy and Suckling up at the defence on possibly Darling or someone like that, I think we'll do pretty well. I think we'll be okay. I think we've got some good tall options in the defence that have really improved our defence this season, especially Marcus Adams and Matthew Suckling, who are both tall defenders. And Fletcher Roberts has that tallness about him as well. So if he plays, he'll add that tallness, but I think some people are predicting that he might get dropped this week. But I think we'll do okay. I'm confident. And that is it for this episode of After the Dogs Roar, the episode after round 10. Hope you enjoyed this episode. It was so good to be at the game on Sunday. I was quite thrilled with the win. It was good to get a win, and of course, even though there were some big talking points coming out of the game, we now move on towards the West Coast Eagles. And if you're going to that game or if you're watching on TV, I hope you enjoy the game, and I hope that the Dogs get a win. And I hope this time next week I'll be talking about a win against the West Coast Eagles. How good would that be, of course? Beaten us in the last couple of years at Domain Stadium, but we have been pretty dominant against the West Coast Eagles at home at Etihad Stadium. Now don't forget to like, comment and share this video. Don't forget to also subscribe for a new episode of this every week, most likely Tuesday now, because that kind of fits in with my my time during the week. So every Tuesday will be most likely a new episode of After the Dogs Roar each week. I try to get it up Monday as much as I can, but Tuesday is the likely day, if not Monday. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to comment your feedback as well. I appreciate everyone's feedback and support. And until next week, I'm Jacob. Go the Dogs.